Good, good, good.
Great.
Perfect.
Sorry.
So sorry. We'll start again. We have two people who are entering right now, so I let them enter. Now I've lost Zoom. Perfect. That's the technology. Here we have it. Good. So that's the first lesson about radical innovation, right? Technology does not always work. Here we are. So we talk about radical innovation today, and yeah, it's a huge subject. So it would take like more than a day or two to really go into all the details and like to have the whole complexity. I would try to give you in that 3 hours some food for thoughts, hopefully some different kind of perspectives on the subject, and we will go through a workshop. So like you will have to work on something, and this will help you to kind of get into a new way of thinking about an innovation project. Like I hopefully give you some tools that you can implement in your workshops as well, so that you can say like, if we have to go into radical innovation, what kind of things could we do? So that's my aim. But I want to start with a short warm-up. And this is the warm-up. So you see, hopefully you see a pattern here. And I want to ask you if you can spot something in it. Can you see something in that pattern? If yes, then just unmute yourself and say it.
A cat.
A cat. Who said a cat?
It's Leila. It's me.
Leila. Cool.
Like a jumping cat.
A jumping cat. That's cool.
Falling cat, better said.
A falling cat. Oh, no, I see it. Cool. Very cool. Yeah, the falling cat. And the cat always lands on the legs, right? It's like with, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Who sees something else?
All I see is we're missing 3 connections.
What? We're
missing 3 connections.
You are missing 3 connections. Okay.
Yeah, you have 3 areas that are separated. That's not good.
It's like 3 different countries or something. Yeah.
I see
Perfect.
a shoe.
A shoe?
Yes.
A male or a female shoe?
A female shoe.
With high heels?
With high heels, exactly.
Yeah. I can see that. Perfect. So we have a very creative group here. I like that. So we have a falling cat. We have like 3 separated like places or things, and we have a female shoe, high heels. So I want to tell you what it actually like it's meant to be. So here you see it.
Oh, yeah.
So there are 2 cows. And of course, there's a reason why I did that experiment with you, but I'll come back to that later on. So that was the warm-up. Now, what are we going to do today? I want to, like, after I just say a paar words about myself, then I want to make a short introduction into what is innovation and what is radical innovation. Then we will see like how could we define an innovation process? What is the front end and the back end? What is like the beginning and the ending? And where do we place the whole subject of radical innovation? And also, where do we place the emphasis on the NTN Innovation Booster? So that's like a short introduction to the subject. And then we will go to the Miro board. I hope you all had the chance to like already work with Miro, and if not, to see the video and to get a bit like acquainted with the whole process. But if not, I'm here to help you. So we go to the Miro board, and I want to collect your expectations about today. And then I will give you the reason why I showed you the 2 cows. And then we will start with the workshop. In between, we will make a short break, and we will work with groups of like in 4 different groups throughout the workshop. And it's going to be a bit of an experiment. So it's like not every group will be like very successful in like coming up with, you know, like totally different things. Maybe yes, but I think not all groups will succeed because it's an experiment. But in the end, we will all come together and take like the best pieces of the groups, and then we work as a whole group again. So don't worry, it's like we separate and then we come back together. So that's the plan for today. Now, who am I? Joël also already said something about me. I don't want to go into very details, but, and this is also something that I want to come back to. That's the reason why I have two pictures here. On the left side, you see me as a family daddy. And on the right side, it's me in the way that I present myself in my business context. So that's like two kind of me's, you know. And I also I was a band singer for 15 years. I just quit like recently. So I'm also like, you know, there's also like the band singer me. There's also the sports me. So they're different me's, and keep that in mind. It's not about like who am I, but you know, it's you, all of you have different me's. All of you have different personalities, right? So that's also one of the key insights you have to keep in mind when talking about radical innovation. So yeah, I'm a consultant for innovation, so I help companies to set the stage for radical innovation. So it's not primarily about like guiding them through a process to come up with ideas, but more what kind of structures does an organization need, you know, in order, like people, structure, process, and so on. Also like the cultural aspects. What do you need in order to come up with radical innovation? So that's like my focus. That's where I consult companies and organizations. So that's my background. That's enough about me. So because we have quite many people here, I don't want to, even though I'm very interested to know who you are, but you know, it would take like about 20 minutes if you just give short time for everyone. So what I will do instead is, as soon as you are in small groups, in the 4 different groups, I give you some additional time so you can introduce yourself within the groups, so to get to know each other in the groups. And I mean, we are also gonna make a break in between. You're free to stay within the Zoom meeting and to talk to each other and to get to know each other. So let's jump into the subject. What is innovation? I mean, that's something that we talk about a lot, right? In many different companies and universities and so on. Innovation, to do something new, innovare. But what is it actually? And there are like different ways to look at innovation. I just want to go into one way to look at it. There are, of course, many different ways. But one way to look at innovation is to say innovation is if you come up with something new that creates added value. So the two things have to be in place. Like it has to be new, it has to create added value. Now you can, of course, ask yourself who new for whom and added value for whom. But that's like, you know, you're opening a field of many discussions. But basically you can say like innovation is something new that adds value. Now, this definition is quite useless because, you know, many things are new and to somebody it will add value. So many things can be labeled as an innovation if you just go with that definition. So for me, it's important to separate like the two different kinds of innovation, which is the incremental innovation and the radical innovation. An incremental innovation is if you improve an existing solution. You take something that is already here and you improve on that. So you take a computer and make a better computer. Let's say. A radical innovation is to ask yourself, what kind of problem does this solution solve? And can we come up with a new solution that solves that problem? You know, like what kind of problem does a computer solve? And maybe it's like, you know, working and sharing and collaboration and so on. And then say, okay, let's take those problems apart and come up with a new solution or with new solutions to, to solve that problem. So that's basically like a radical innovation. You have to make 1 or 2 steps back and ask yourself, why is our company or our organization even here? Why was it founded 25 years ago? What did we try to solve? And given all the new technology and all the new possibilities that we have today, is there a chance to solve that problem differently today? So that's very, very basic, very rough. Now, another way to look at it, which I think is, let's take it away. Another way to look at it, which I think is also quite interesting, is to separate not by incremental and radical, but by known innovation, or like innovation as usual, and innovation that surprises, like surprising innovation. And what I mean by that is, like, many companies, they have kind of a ritual to come up with new things. Let's take the pharma industry. They come up with new medicine, like every now and then, they come up with new medicine. So each medicine, each pill is, of course, an innovation, but that's what we used to from that company. Like, we used that the pharma industry, they come up with new medicine. The question is also, like, what kind of innovation are we not used to? Like, what would surprise us? And I call this the new innovation. That's a new kind of innovation for an organization. And that's also what I want to tackle here. So if you go into microtech, of course, there are many technological innovation within microtech. But maybe the challenge is not to come up with a new technological innovation within that field, but to come up with something that is like, like another kind of innovation, another business model, for example. And why I want to separate those two is the incremental innovation, it kind of happens naturally. Of course, not like, you have to do something for it, but that's a natural, like, like improvement that we humans are good in. Like, we ask ourselves, can we do it better? Can we do it, can we improve on it? But the radical part, or the surprising innovation, you have to make more to come up with that. So that's you have to put more effort into it. Now, the whole focus of the NTN Innovation Booster by Innosuisse is for companies and organizations to come together and to find radical innovation. So that's why it's also something that we do now here with the NTN Innovation Booster Microtech, is to say, like, what is radical innovation and what is different when it comes to radical innovation. Now, let's go to the process of innovation. We can also say the process of creativity. Like, if you come up with something new, most organizations, most companies, they believe that innovation happens like this. You need a good idea, and as soon as you have that good idea, you have to implement or realize it. You have to make a project out of it, and then you can build that thing. But that's actually not really how innovation works, because an idea, most of the times, it's more like an ugly duckling. It's here. You think, oh, that's a beautiful swan, but everyone else looks at it and says, well, no, that's an ugly duckling. And you're not sure if you're really right. Maybe it is an ugly duckling and it stays one, but maybe it turns out to be a beautiful swan. But in the beginning, almost all ideas, they are not perfect. They have many, like, logical holes. Many people won't get it. As the more radical it is, the less people will really realize what it's about. Like, in the beginning, an idea is not good. And even you who have the idea, you're not sure if that's a safe bet or not. Like, most of the times it's not. There are many statistics that show that around 80% of all innovations will fail or will disappoint. So it's not a safe bet, even if you think, well, that's worth pursuing. So most of the times it stays an ugly duckling. What does that mean? It means it's not a safe bet to just come up with an idea and then say, now let's pour money into it and let's make it, and then find out that it was, in the end, it's still an ugly duckling. That's not the aim. So the aim is to, like, work with that duckling until you're kind of sure, there are some white feathers coming. So I think it is a swan, and then go into building something out of it. So in other words, instead of just coming up with one idea or with an idea, you need a phase where I call the exploration phase, where you do some exploration. You work on the problem, you work on the topic, on the subject, you come up with many different ideas, you challenge those ideas, you test those ideas, you talk to people, you refine it. It's like a lot of work on the ideas before even starting to really make it. And this might take a while. This might take like months, it could take 3 months, half a year, where you're just like refining your ideas, coming up with new ones, challenging those, testing those. And why I also bring that is because in many organizations, if you come up with an idea, you have to pitch that, you have to come up with funding monies or something. And most questions that are being asked is like, how many time do you need? How much money do you need? What kind of skills do you need? Like all those questions are questions about how will you do it, and not is it meaningful to do it. So in the beginning, it's about are we doing the right it? Is it worth pursuing what I think it's worth pursuing? Finding arguments, finding proofs that it is the right it. And only if I have like enough, like hints that it might be the right it, I can think about doing it right. Or if you make it visually, in the beginning, you start somewhere and it is a journey. You will make some loops, you will go into directions that in the end you see they were not worth going to, but you couldn't know. So you make experiments, you fail, and so on and so on. And only if you found, your treasure, if you found something that is really promising, then comes the next step where it's like about how can we efficiently build that, make that, realize it. Now, if we separate those two phases, and I know it's not like a hard cut, it's not like the one phase and then you see where the next phase starts. It's like a soft cut, but as a help, it helps to see it that way. The NTN Booster is actually here to really go into that exploration phase. Like traditionally, Innosuisse, like a classical Innosuisse approach, an Innosuisse project is actually more in the realization phase. You come up with an idea, you say what you need, you say how much money, how much time, how much, what skills you need. And then we as Innosuisse experts and the Innosuisse Council, we like kind of see if that fits and say yes or no. And if we say yes, you go into the realization phase. But what Innosuisse realized is that we need some tools, some places where companies and organizations and schools and so on, they can combine themselves to really do some exploration, where you don't know what the idea is going to be. Maybe you have a problem or a hint, or like something that you think there might be something, but you need other people to really work on that. And that's the exploration phase. Now, radical innovation, in my opinion, it starts at the very beginning. It's not about how radical the end result will be. I don't care. I mean, in the end, if the thing that results is successful, I don't care if people say, well, that is radical or not. That's really irrelevant. What is relevant is with what kind of goal are you starting? Do you start by saying it's fine if we just optimize what we already have? Or do you start with the goal in mind? Let's really go into new fields. Let's really think about things that we haven't thought yet. That's kind of the mindset of radical innovation. And what happens on the way, it happens. It's not fully in your control. So it's a process. But that's just a basic input about where are we now? We are now in the exploration phase, and we are thinking about new ways to tackle like problems, new ways of thinking about things, not optimizing things that are already here, but to think differently. So that was my short introduction into the subjects. What I would like to do now is to shortly present you how the Miro board looks like for all of you who haven't been there yet. So I show it here, just that you can, what is it? You just see a white field, right? Mm-hmm. I just see a white field, so that's not what I wanted to show. Yeah, the Miro link was sent now in the comments. So many of you are already there. I see your arrows there, but I want to shortly tell you how I built or what I built. So,
Jean Philippe, there is someone who cannot access it.
Who is not able to access it?
You can.
Yeah, please write your email address in the chat. So I send you an invitation. Maybe that helps.
Already done. The problem is the invitation and my Miro account are not on the same email address.
What? I hear some infos. That's your phone, right? You're entering the Nicoletta. We hear like the whole thing about yeah. So who has problems entering?
It's just me because I'm trying to enter with another access address. Let me just try to find my password again.
Okay.
But I can follow in the meantime on your screen.
Yeah. Let me first tell you how I built that. Like what is the aim of that? And if you in the meantime have problems to enter that, just write it in the chat. Good. So we will start here on the left, and then we will go like up here. We go to the first field, which is the darkest field, and then we work to the bit like lighter field down, and then we go up again and back. So we have like task 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in the end there's this checkout. So that's like the basic thing. What I want you to also see is like the red field here on top. Do you see that? Like where it's written, I need support. When we work in teams, I won't be able to hear you because we were gonna be in different groups in the Zoom meeting, but I will be on that board and I see what you're doing. So if you want me to come to your group because you need support in like the task is not clear or whatever, then just put a post-it here inside and say, like come to our group. Maybe you post your name. Then I find your name, I go to your group, and then we can talk to each other. That's just like a way to tell me that you need my help. So that's something that I want to show you. Then what I want you to do now is log into the board. So if you're not there already, and then go to that left field here in the pink field here where it's written my expectations, and write down what you expect from this afternoon. Like what should happen in order for you to be happy with this afternoon. Just write down 1 or 2 post-its. And if you have some problems like how to write a post-it or something like this, just tell me. So that's the first task. I give you around 5 minutes to do that. And then we'll see how we proceed.
I would still need access. I put you my email in the chat. Good.
I send it to you. That's the email address, right? bis@avk.
Yeah, it's unfortunately different email address for the account and for the email.
No problem. I send you an invitation. Good. I think you should now have received the invitation. There are people who are in but cannot see themselves. Okay, I have to change train. Yeah, if it's not working right now because you have to change train or whatever, it's not such a problem. As soon as you can come in a bit later again. Did it work, Dominic and Florina?
I didn't get an email yet, but that might take some time usually.
Yeah, because I'm not sure if I clicked twice and I'm not sure if that worked. So I try it again. Good. I sent it again.
Okay, it works now. Thank you.
Good, perfect.
Jean Philippe, perhaps
Yes.
we will cut the microphone from Coletta and Herring because there is
Okay.
a lot of noise. Yes,
Good.
thank
Perfect.
you.
So I'm really impressed by the things that you've written down. So really good questions or good things that you've written down. So everything is a win. Thank you. So there are some things that I could just approach right now. More open-minded, learn, transfer to the. They're like one question here was about the link between open innovation and radical innovation. I will tackle that one right now because I'm not going into that very much afterwards. But you know, like imagine radical innovation is something that you haven't done before. So you as an organization, you're not used to that. It's not something that you have a solution and you improve on that. For that, you have skills, you have processes, you have, like your organization is built to do that one solution. A radical innovation is something else. So most times you don't have the processes for that. You don't have the right, like all the right people, all the right skills. You don't have, it's also very risky. So maybe you want to de-risk that one thing. You need different perspectives on it. So it makes really sense to go into an open innovation approach, which means that you open up your barriers of your organization and you take in some other partners. You go with a high school, with your university and with startups and so on, and you come together. But it works best if there is no one like saying, I have the truth, I have an idea, and I just need you to make that one idea. But if all the partners, they are like kind of open-minded where the journey will go. It's like more of this, let's come together and see what happens if we combine our different approaches, our different views on the subject. So that's why open innovation is really I think it can be done without open innovation, radical innovation, but it's a lot harder than if you go with different partners. So that's the link. Now, another one that is really interesting that I won't address here, ideas on how to better bring real innovations further in the company. So if what it's meant here is that, like, you know, the idea has to go through many stages, and hopefully it won't die because of processes and analyses and, you know, naysayers and so on. That's a very, you know, it's a hard topic. It's like, how can you protect this radical idea from all the dangers there is inside of an organization? Most of the times, the more radical it is, the harder, the more difficult it is that it will, like, you know, survive within the company. You know, let alone if it survives within the company, it goes outside, and then there is another battlefield outside. It's like how to win the market. But it is a difficult point. I just want to acknowledge that it is difficult, but we don't have that much time to go into these things. But I think most of the post-its that you have here, I can address, hopefully in that short time, to give you some tools, some thinking help to go through something like this. So thank you very much. For me, that's also, you know, like a lot of inputs to think about. If we do like a second webinar or something, it's like where to put the highlights. Good. Now I want you to come back into, I mean, you can stay on the Miro board, but I have something else I want to share with you. And this is, too many open. So here we are. Good. So hopefully you see now again the picture of me with my daughter, with one of my daughters, and the other picture. And the reason I put that in is because of the subject of identity. I think there are two different things that are quite related to each other, that have a huge impact on whether an organization can be radically innovative or not. One is the identity of your organization. Like, how do you see yourself, or how does your organization perceive itself? And the reason why I put those two pictures is, like, if I'm together with my daughter and I go to a play yard, it's not a problem to, you know, like go into, you know, like sit in the meadow and become dirty while playing, you know, and doing things that I wouldn't do if I was, like, you know, in a meeting room with customers. So the way I see myself and the identity has implications on what is possible to do and where do I constrain myself. And identity is a huge motor for decisions. So if someone says to me, Jean-Philippe, you are a very generous person, so I know you a few years and I know that you're very generous, and then a few minutes later, someone asks me for a donation, I will most probably give that donation because, you know, somebody reminded me that I'm very generous. So the way that I perceive myself has a huge impact on what I can do and what I will do and what I won't do. So the reason I say that is that many times I work with companies and organizations that see themselves as, let's say, a bank or an insurance company. And if you see yourself as an insurance company, then there are some limitations to what you can do and can't do, only just because of the fact that you see yourself as an insurance company. So the way you perceive yourself and who am I, and like, we are a traditional company, then of course that has implications on what you do. So that's one big thing, but we won't work with that. But just, you know, I wanted to tell you that, like, identity is a big thing that you can try to work on. And to work on that means ask yourself, how do we perceive our own organization, and how do we think other people's, the outside, perceives us? And is it a match? Is, like, the inside view same as the outside view? And if so, is it something that we want to have it that way? Is it the way we want to be perceived and we want to perceive ourselves, or do we want to change that? And it is possible to change it. You know, I can say, I want to be a very I want to be, like, perceived as someone who is very sportive. And if I perceive myself as such, it makes it a lot easier to go and, you know, go jogging and so on. So that's one subject. And the other subject is the subject of the two cows. Because if I show you that here, I guess most of you will see the two cows again. Is it true? You see the two cows again? Okay, no, everyone is muted. So
Yes.
I guess you see the two cows. But now you had some other suggestions. You had the cat who's falling. You had the high heel shoe. You had like the different, separated countries. So if I would have shown you the two cows right from the beginning, I think no one would have seen the cat or the shoe, or, it's very difficult to see something if you already have an image of something. And the reason I show you this is because our brain is really good in cementing the things that you have already in mind, like the views, the beliefs you have. They're like kind of patterns that stay within, that stay with you. So that's the problem of the fixed patterns. And this problem is very obvious if you see, like, if you go into different industries, and if you go into different companies that have, like the fixed patterns of how to behave in a certain industry. It's quite close to the identity, but it's more like the thing of the core beliefs. What kind of core beliefs do we have about our industry, our company, our organization? What are the core beliefs we have? I just bring like one example. It has more to do with identity, but I think it's a beautiful example to show you what I mean. It's like if you go back in history and say what Nintendo started as a company who printed, like cards for playing games. So they were like a printing company, but they didn't perceive themselves as a printing company. So their core belief was not like we print things. Their identity was more like we enable joy and fun and play. And when the trend started to go into video games, it was for them, I guess, easier to change from printing cards to going to video game than it would have been if they just saw themselves as a printing company, because that's a leap, that's a step that is like too far away. A printing company won't go and do like video games. So that's actually the power of core beliefs and identity. It's like, how do you perceive yourself? I think that's one of the biggest reasons why radical innovation is so hard. We all talk about this thinking outside the box, and the box actually are the core beliefs and your identity. You make your own box. It's like, what can a bank or an insurance company or a microtech company do? That's something that you impose yourself. It's like, of course, there are regulations, there are laws and so on, but I'm not talking about those. I talk about the core beliefs, barriers that you yourself put on yourself. So, when everybody zigs, zag. So that's kind of the thing about radical innovation. Just because everybody does something, it doesn't mean that it has to be that way. So you can do something else. And that's where the surprise lies. And this is also where most people would say, well, that's innovative, that's something else. So that was like the introduction to what we're going to do. So next, that was my last slide. So I want you to go and change to the Miro board. And I will explain to you what we're going to do next. We stay in the whole group, so we're not in the groups yet, but what I want you to do is to go to that field on top here. If you follow the arrow, you come to the field that is written suggested topics for workshop starting point. Yes, Joel is there, Dominic is there, Celia is very close. Yes, exactly, there in the top left. I just, wrote down some topics that we could take as a starting point. And I want you to take a dot here on top, one of the red dots, and put it there where you think this is the most, the subject that I would like to work on. The one is like how to change from a product-centered business model to a service-centered business model. One is about artificial intelligence in production. Then we have one that is about more ecological sustainability in production. We have one that is about how to change from a B2B business model to a B2C business model. And one is very general, just microtechnology, the microtech. So choose one, and we will only choose the one that has the most points. So I see it's a tough race between from product to service and more ecological sustainability in production. The other ones, they are left behind. They didn't start the race yet. So did everyone already put the points in? Faites vos jeux. And rien ne va plus. Okay. So we have the change from a product-centered business model to a service-centered business model as a subject. We will now all work with that. And don't worry, that's just a starting point. So let's say that's like a subject that you have within your organization or something. You say like, yeah, we're very product-centered. Like we produce products, we give them, we receive money for each product. How can we change that to a more service-centered business model? Now, what I want you to do, and I explained the first task, then we split into teams. I say you how much time you have. And when the time is up, we meet again, and then we'll make a short break. So just that you say the break is around the corner. What I want you to do is to read what is written here about like the core beliefs. It's a short introduction into what core beliefs are. And then as a group, collect assumptions and beliefs. Write down things that you believe about that topic that we chose. Let's make an example. Example could be, I don't know, product-centered business models are more scalable than service-centered business models. That's just, top of my head. Just, write down some things that you believe about that subject. It can be very specific. It can be very vague. Can also be something like that's impossible or this is whatever, just write down some beliefs you have. Then start first in the first 5 minutes by writing down post-its by yourself without a lot of communication, without talking to each other. And then you have about another 5 minutes to talk to each other and, like see what you came up with and come up with a few more. So in total, I give you around 10 minutes for that task. Now, in order to get to know each other in your group, I give 5 additional minutes. So in total, you have 15 minutes before I call you back. In those 15 minutes, you can shortly introduce yourself. Who are you? Why are you here? Whatever. And then start with the writing down of the core beliefs. So if you have any questions about that right now that may concern everybody, then just, ask, put your microphone on and ask. If not, there's always a possibility to write down a post-it in the I need support field, and then I come to your group. Good. If I don't hear anything, I will make 4 groups now, randomly, and we will see each other back in 15 minutes. the three of you who are already are still here in the main group. Are you still with us? Urina, Nike, F. Braunmüller.
How to do it? Hi, Jean.
Hi.
Hi.
Just wanted to tell you that you are a smaller group. Florina is coming, so don't worry.
Okay, good.
No problem. Hi, Florina.
Hi, sorry, I was distracted I had to talk to a colleague quickly, so I missed probably the introduction round. I don't know.
No problem, no problem. I just
No.
started, and my background, as I said, is in business information system, and currently I'm working as a consultant, and some topics are always regarding innovation, but mostly more
Okay, I will put another one there, pink one.
Hi there. I just read that Nicoletta is muted.
Yes.
Still? Yeah.
I think that's a yes.
I don't like, are you still like in two accounts inside of that? No, because you're here not muted.
Did you accidentally pick the wrong micro or something?
Oh, yeah.
You're unmuted, so I don't really know what's happening.
Yeah.
Otherwise, maybe try to reconnect once. Does that work?
Yeah. Yeah, she says otherwise she writes, but it's gonna be a bit sad.
Still nothing. Welcome back, everyone. So it was very interesting to see that you came up with really many different core beliefs, really great stuff. So I want to do two things before we go into the break. The first thing is to tell you what we're going to do after the break, so you can already think about it. You will work in the same group again afterwards in the step 2. And as a group, you will have to pick one core belief that you will go into the next round with. So it's a bit of a challenge because you have many core beliefs, but I want you to pick one that is more kind of a negative one, you know, like one that says like, it is very difficult to do blah, 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 or it is impossible to, or, you know, like something that is kind of a mental block that is maybe here. And I'm not saying that it is a correct or not correct belief. It can be a very correct belief, but take one that is rather negative. So that will be a task for like after the breaks. You can already think about which one would you take. And the second thing is I would just kind of like to hear 1 or 2 or 3 voices from you. How was it? Like how was the first step? Was it easy for you to come up with the core beliefs? Was it something that you never did before, you know, like, that was interesting to do that? Or was it like, yeah, I do that like quite often, something like that? Or how was it for you?
Well, if nobody says something, I try to break the ice here.
Thank you for the ice break.
To me, I mean, it was not that difficult, but that might also have to do with, you know, that I have been thinking about these things before, and actually also thought about these things in some classes. If it were something completely new, like if it would have been like, I don't know, AI in production, it probably would have been a little more difficult for me than this one here.
Nice. Yeah, I have a question here. So you say you have been thinking about that before in classes and so on, but and as I take from that, so you're in a university context, right? So it's not something that it's like you are thinking about that as an external kind of view and not about an internal view, or is it more an internal view? Like, is it more a question about how is it for us, or is it something that you think about how is it in general? Or
for SAP and for other companies that are also as a user, let's say with cars, I want to switch to a service model with cars. With software, it's no problem, but with cars, it might be a little bit different, etc. That's a little bit background.
Yeah, because like my assumption is that if it is something that is like a belief that has to do with your own organization, like something that you say, like we are thinking about that quite often, it is harder than it's something if you say it is something that I think about like for customers or for other people, you know, it's like that's the best case scenario actually what you present here. It's like something that we think about a lot, but it's not something that is like really like our own identity or our core belief, but it's a core belief of, you know. So I think that's the easiest part. The hardest part is if it's something that has to do with your own identity as an organization, maybe.
Great.
Yeah. Some other voices about the first step?
Yeah, we found it pretty interesting, the things we came up with, because we have completely different backgrounds. And you could really see that in the things we came up with. That was quite interesting to see.
So that's a great argument for open innovation right there.
Yeah.
So if you do something together with people with a different background, it's kind of magic. It's really, you know, sometimes even within an organization, I say like people see that you take people from other departments. If you do something like this, like even this helps, you know, like people from different departments or something, different views, they give different perspectives. So it's really powerful.
It's really this ability to have everyone feel free to share exactly their mental model and before judgment. That's the most interesting thing, I think.
Very good point. Very good point. I mean, I think it is easier in a context where we don't really know each other. And it's like, you know, I don't have a history where I say, oh, again, you always those ideas. Every time you say something, that's, you know, or it can also be the opposite. It's like, oh, if you say something, then it's always great, you know. But if it has to do with innovation, it's always good to separate the ideas, assumptions, whatever you say from the person who is saying it. So it's easier said than done, but it's just a little takeaway. If you do something like this, a workshop or something, it's most of the time it's better if you collect the things like on paper, for example, or, you know, without seeing who was the person who wrote it down. And even if you do it by hand, most people won't say like, yeah, I recognize the hand lettering. And, you know, that step alone is most of the times enough to separate the person from the idea. Persons and ideas are totally different things. So that's also a good takeaway. Yeah.
Yeah, we found that the act of writing, making people write, actually prevents people from overbearing the conversation.
Yeah. Maybe another takeaway, but because you said that we're not going into like, you know, like different creativity methods or something, but one very important rule that I have is don't start with brainstorming where everybody starts, you know, talking to each other about things, because first people who like to talk, they will talk the most. Second is like the first person who says something, it's already set like the way it's going, you know. The first idea is like the idea that is setting the way. If you start by just giving 5 or 10 minutes for every person to write things down and then collect it, you have a variety of different directions. And like it doesn't matter if you're a person who likes to talk or not, it's here. So they can like forget about most of the other rules there are. I mean, there are some very good rules as well, but I think that's the most crucial rule is, you know, like to start with different directions. And if I have a second rule is don't stop with the first idea. Collect many ideas, because the first idea might seem very good, but only if you compare ideas with each other, there's a chance that you see, no, the third idea was even better than the first idea. No, so that's a short takeaway before we do the break. So now it's 2:45. I would love to see you back at 3 o'clock. Feel free, if you want to stay within the chat here and talk to each other, you know, you can do that, but otherwise see you back in 15 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jean Philippe, I'm not sure what we're doing for the second part, but I can't stay for the whole event.
Yes.
So I just want to see when's a good time to not to leave, because I don't want to leave, but if you know what I mean.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it like this. I go through the whole process in a short, you know, as short as I can for you, so that you see where the journey is going.
Yeah.
And then you decide. You know, I mean, you can go whenever you feel, but what we're going to do is, now we have a core belief. Like we choose one core belief. Most of the times there are like supporting beliefs underneath. This is when you ask why do you believe this? You know, why do you believe that, I don't know, like electric cars are more expensive than others, you know, and then you say, because the battery and because of this and this and this. So there are supporting beliefs. The next thing we do is we take the supporting beliefs and we just, you know, make the opposite. And we say, like, if batteries are very heavy, what if batteries were very light? And then we go more radical. And we say, what if batteries would even float, and they would, you know, they would go into the air, and, you know, they were so light that it would, you know, make the cars. So we go more extreme. And then in the end, we come up with something that is like kind of most probably a not realistic supporting belief. We take that and say, what if those supporting beliefs were actually really correct? What kind of a core belief could we make out of it? So we go back to the core belief.
Okay.
Most of the times, like many times, you come up with a core belief that is useless. So that's the you know, the part where we just have to say, okay, let's try it. But there can be some core beliefs that are really interesting and lead to a very different direction.
Okay, great.
So that's the fourth. And then we take that and ask ourselves, what questions could we ask ourselves if that core belief were true? What questions could we ask? And what kind of first ideas come to mind? So that's just, you know, it's the start of the ideation phase.
Great.
In this short process, I guess some of the teams and some of the members will come up with some things that are like the initial seed for maybe a radical innovation. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I'll also grab a coffee then.
Ça va, Nicoletta? No? I can.
She has no audio. The microphone doesn't work.
Tu m'entends comme ça?
Ah oui, comme ça, c'est bon.
Voilà.
Voilà. Ah oui, ça marche jamais comme on voudrait, hein, ces installations.
Non, mais, tu sais, j'ai acheté des micros Wi-Fi parce que j'avais oublié les miens et j'ai essayé de les configurer et du coup, ça a déconfiguré le système. J'arrive plus à le remettre en place. Je pense que je dois vraiment me déconnecter tout et puis rentrer à nouveau, mais vraiment fermer l'ordinateur.
Ah.
Et puis là, j'ai travaillé avec les deux parce que je voulais pas vous perdre. Et donc, j'ai essayé avec les deux accounts, mais non, je pense qu'il a foutu un bordel.
Bon.
Dommage pour le groupe là, le 4, parce que je ne peux pas contribuer comme j'aimerais. Mais bon.
Ok, ben, c'est déjà chouette que tu sois là. Merci beaucoup en tout cas.
Non, mais t'inquiète. C'est dommage parce que c'est vraiment, effectivement, c'est vraiment intéressant ce que Jean Philippe amène. J'ai fait un parcours comparable il y a 20 ans déjà quand j'étais au Canada. Et puis, il y a 2 semaines, j'ai repris ça avec mon équipe. On est en train de faire un management change. Tu sais, on change vraiment un peu la configuration de Fintoprint parce qu'on est passé de 7 personnes à 30 en moins de 2 ans. Et on a vraiment besoin maintenant de se reconfigurer un peu au niveau d'organisation. Donc, c'est pour ça qu'on travaille beaucoup avec ce genre d'outils qui sont vraiment intéressants pour gérer les idées.
Tout à fait, oui. Et puis, pour les webinaires comme ça, de passer sur le miroboard, qu'est-ce que tu penses?
Je suis sur le miroboard. J'ai essayé de travailler dessus. Je ne m'y vois pas, mais c'est aussi un truc, tu le fais normalement avec les post-it sur place. Et là, c'est génial. Je ne connaissais pas le fait de l'utiliser comme brainstorming board virtuel. Je trouve que c'est génial, effectivement.
Ouais.
Nous, on est déjà en train de considérer l'utiliser pour nos meetings hybrides, en fait, présentiels et Teams.
Oui, c'est vrai.
Ouais. Là, pendant la pause, là, on en discutait avec les collègues.
Mm-hmm.
Et on a aussi utilisé ça pour le workshop Design Thinking. Et maintenant, sur un tableau Miro, j'ai aussi tout le process Design Thinking qui peut être utilisé par une équipe qui souhaite passer à travers cette méthode. Ouais, c'est très sympa parce que finalement, les gens peuvent accéder au tableau de manière individuelle avant, après le
meeting. Et puis, j'imagine que tu fais aussi des listes avec, donc tu peux attribuer des tâches à des gens, j'imagine, des choses comme ça, ou en tout cas peut être développé comme ça. Parce qu'après, tu sors, tu as des tâches, tu peux les distribuer et suivre après comme projet. Je pense que c'est quelque chose de faisable.
Oui, sûrement, mais là, je serais tentée de dire qu'il y a peut-être d'autres outils qui sont déjà configurés pour ça et qui sont directement utilisables pour ça.
Mais je dirais avec une interface qui peut les transférer là-dedans, par exemple.
Oui, tout à fait. Ouais. Jérémy, vous avez vu que l'idée de Sinova est sur la plateforme?
Oui, Falk et moi en avons parlé et puis du coup, on a soumis la première idée.
Ouais.
Ah oui, elle a été publiée, c'est ça?
Oui, elle a été publiée. Ouais. Ouais.
On verra comment ça se passe.
Oui, j'espère que vous aurez du succès.
On verra bien. Et je crois que c'était le challenge.
Jérémy, j'ose demander. Je n'ai pas encore vu, je suis passé hier.
Là, l'idée, c'est de voir à quel point combien de gens sont intéressés pour usiner de la céramique avec profondeur contrôlée sur du laser, en fait. Mais c'est vrai que c'est le challenge, je crois que Joël, vous avez interagi pas mal avec Falk là-dessus. Le challenge, c'est d'arriver à créer quelque chose qui n'est pas centré sur nos besoins à nous, qui n'est pas nécessairement centré sur l'entreprise. Et c'est pour ça que c'est bien qu'on se soit prêté à l'exercice. Je suis à peu près, de ce que j'ai vu, l'idée, elle est encore un peu trop centrée sur nous. Mais on tente comme ça et puis on verra après. Je crois que c'est vraiment en se prêtant à ce jeu d'innovation ouverte, je crois qu'on arrivera à quelque chose de fonctionnel.
Alors, vous pouvez l'éditer en tout temps. Hein. Donc, si tout à coup, vous avez des retours de certaines personnes quant à votre idée ou comme ça, puis que vous avez envie de modifier un petit peu le texte, eh ben, vous pouvez le faire.
C'est vrai que trouver quelque chose de fédérateur, je trouve que c'est un gros challenge quand même, parce qu'on est quand même très cadré sur nos besoins, les besoins de l'entreprise.
Bah, si je peux vous faire un retour d'expérience, vu que j'ai eu la même chose à faire, moi, pour aller collecter des fonds et des partenaires sur mon idée, c'est beaucoup de coups de téléphone, de relance avec Joël pour essayer de donner des pistes potentielles. Et, mais vous êtes uniquement sur la céramique, parce que nous, le laser, ça nous intéresse, mais pas de céramique, forcément, là, maintenant.
Bon, non, ça peut être n'importe quel matériau, mais c'est vrai qu'on se concentre sur le carbure de silicium en ce moment, parce c'est un matériau qui grimpe beaucoup, en fait, dans pas mal d'industries.
Oui, bah, j'ai fait l'horlogerie et le medtech, donc oui, effectivement.
Ouais. Mais tout matériau, hein, si vous êtes intéressé par un autre matériau.
On a une équipe laser, nous, au sein de notre service. Enfin, moi, je travaille pour le service Engineering Service dans Jabil, qui est un service transverse, qui est. On peut peut-être se connecter après.
Avec plaisir.
J'essaie de vous chercher sur LinkedIn, mais je ne vous trouve pas.
Ah, c'est le même nom. Hein.
Ok, ouais. Alors, peut-être si vous me trouvez.
Il a numéro,
Ou vous demandez à Joël mes coordonnées, elle les a.
Non, je vais vous retrouver. Hélène, Manufacturing and Quality Manager.
C'est ça.
Je vous envoie une petite connexion. D'habitude, je mets un petit message, mais là, on va la...
Ah non, parce que c'est pas la Merci. Oui, puis on reprend contact peut-être après. Parce que là,
avec grand plaisir.
Ouais.
Envoyez-moi un petit email et puis on commencera à en discuter.
Super.
So Nicoletta, you demuted again, right? We hear you. Yes.
You can hear me now? But through the cell phone, probably.
No. Nick, you're asking, right?
Yeah, it's the same person.
Sure. That's the same person. Yeah.
So you see me as Nicoletta and you hear me like Nike.
That's good. So you're both. I just have to see that you're in the same group, not that you have a split personality.
Yeah, thank you.
Good. Perfect. So I hope everybody's back. I don't see like all of you, but it is time. So welcome back after the break. Yeah, I wait a few seconds. It would be great, that's also radical innovation, would be great if I could just ask the people who are not here, who is not here, but that's not possible. So let's go into the second step. What I want you to do is, so you will go back into your groups. I will put you back in your groups. You go into the Miro board. You go to the next section, to the second task. It's also written there what you have to do, but I will explain it shortly. What you do is you pick one core belief, one that is rather a negative one, and then you try to come up with supporting beliefs. That's when you ask why. Why do you believe that this is true? Then you come up with supporting beliefs. You know, why do I believe that electric cars are not very sustainable? Yeah, because the production of batteries is everything else than sustainable. Blah, 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 blah. So you have supporting beliefs underneath those core beliefs. this is what you're going to collect now. We also do the same, that you collect the first 5 minutes, you collect by yourself. So you write down some post-its, what could be some supporting beliefs, and then you talk to each other and see like which beliefs are there more beliefs to that supporting beliefs, and pick 4 that you want to take for the next round. So when you see the time is running up, so after around 15 minutes, you come up with 4 of those supporting beliefs that you take into the next round. So that's
Jean-Philippe, if you don't mind a question,
sure.
we're in agreement. The first step is that we select one of our first core beliefs, right?
Exactly.
Okay, just making sure.
Yes. So the first thing you do is pick one of the core beliefs that you came up with in the first section. Take that down. You can take that post-it down to the next phase, and then ask yourself, what are some supporting beliefs that support that one core belief? So that's the task. If there are some questions, just ask or write down the post-its. I come to your group. So in around 15 minutes, I'll take you back into the plenum. Until then, good working. Hello back. So I see many of you are eagerly still working on the Miro board, which is quite cool. And I see there is many content created there. Also very nice to see. So I will shortly tell you what the next step will be, because maybe that will also help you to decide which of the 4 supporting core beliefs you will pick, or how to kind of reformulate the core beliefs that you already picked. That could also be something, because I have seen that sometimes it's a question that you have there, and it's easier to make it as a statement. So it's just, you know, that's a statement here. So you can easily like just rewrite it as a statement. Good. But first, before I tell you what to do next, how was your experience with that second step? How was that? Some learnings or some aha moments or some difficulties?
I think first, the diversity in the group, between the difference between like the people that are working in business innovation and research innovation is very helpful to get a variety. So so I know you randomly picked the groups, but
yes, I did.
But still, it's good to have diversity in the groups, I think. And second, well, we didn't have enough time to pick the last. We picked one of 4, just not the other 3.
Yes, you still get some time to do that afterwards, so no worry.
But yeah, there were common threads and ones we could have grouped together, I think. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We ended up being more aligned than I thought on the same
on the
idea, actually. Yeah,
on the supporting beliefs. Yeah.
At least that's the way I perceived it.
So you're on team 2, right?
Yeah, we generated less new ideas, I think, because we seem to be perfectly aligned. Is this your feeling as well, Joël?
Yes, perhaps too many engineers in the same. I don't know, but yes, we very quickly focused on finally one topic, and perhaps it was a little bit too early.
Yeah, I mean, what would you do differently if that was like, you know, a serious setup? Buy to look. So what could you do differently if there was, you know, a different setup where you say like, yeah, it's really important that we come up with radical innovation and so on? Don't know. So my suggestion would be, you know, if you've picked one core belief or 2 core beliefs and you see, okay, the supporting beliefs, they are all in the same direction, we are too aligned on them, you can also just, you know, ask other people what they think about that core belief, if that resonates with them, and if yet, why, you know, just, you know, why do you believe that services, what was your people are afraid of not selling a product? Why do you believe that there are many people who are afraid of not selling a product? You know, and people will give you answers. So, and you will find some new things. So it's not always important that you include people into the whole process. That's also an important point. You know, don't think that open innovation is about, you know, having a lot of people always through the whole process. Maybe it's just, you know, a small group of people, but know when to, you know, include people for a short period of time. Maybe it's just an input from other people, and then it's like, thank you very much, and you go back and say, that's interesting, let's work with that. So that could help a lot. And of course, if you have a bit more time, that's also good. What we do here is like a super sprint. Sometimes sprints are good, but there are some times where it's just good, you know, to have some days in between to just, you know, think about it, come up with new things. You read something or you look at something, you hear something, and then say, that's something else, you know, I could also integrate that. So many times in creativity, you just need some time to let it think, to let it sink, to think about it, you know, to include other thoughts. So don't worry if you think that's too aligned. It's okay.
I have a question.
Yes, sure, Fiona.
Have you gone through all the groups? Sorry, excuse me.
No.
Is it okay to? I was just wondering. At what point it's good to do this process with innovation teams, like with Joelle as well, and the other NTNs. So some of them are, you know, they're quite well down the line developing their ideas. So if we bring them in and do this with them, and you know, to try and get them to think differently about the idea that they're developing already, is there a time within their development process that's a good point to actually do this?
To do this exercise that we're doing here?
Yes.
Well, I think there might be a point where it's a bit too late, and that's when people are already fallen in love with their idea.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you see that people are like too much into their idea, I think that's one of the paradoxes. That's the new book I want to write. It's about the paradoxes. It's like it is good to fall in love with your idea, because if you don't have the passion and the drive to really pursue it. But it's also bad to fall in love with your idea, because then you're not open for, you know, new inputs and critics and so on. So you have to kind of find the balance between. But if you see that the people are still in that phase where, you know, that they're willing to change the idea to some degree, maybe it's good to make that exercise. The sooner the better. I mean, if you have people coming together and they say, we have no idea yet, but we have a subject or something that we would like to think about, then it works quite good. The more you already have a solution in mind, the harder it gets. You know, that's the famous confirmation bias. If you have a solution in mind, you just take in the information that already supports what you already have in mind. So that's like the sooner the better. The later the harder it gets to really bring people to think differently. So maybe it's a good idea to, if you make it later on, to bring in people who are not biased and not like into the idea yet, and just, you know, don't mention the idea that you have, and say like, let's do the exercise and let's see where it goes. And then later on, we bring our idea, and let's say if that matches somehow or not, or what people think about it. But I think there is the point where when the idea is already too well formed, then I wouldn't do that. I mean, that's really something, you know, changing the core beliefs and something like this. It's earlier stage.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but that's a point that I see quite often in NTN Innovation Boosters, is that, like, also in microtech, right? You say like, bring in your ideas. And if people already bring in an idea, the best thing would be to make a step back with them. Let's say, great, you have an idea. Why do you think that idea is good? What does it solve? For whom is it? And then say, okay, you want to solve that problem. Let's think about other solutions that could also solve that problem. Maybe your solution is a good one, but maybe not the best one. Let's open up again, you know, like make a step back and then make a step forward. So, I think in theory, it is very good to start with a problem, but in practice, what I see very often, it's very hard to start with a problem. It's easier to start with a solution. And it's easier to start with a solution, go back to the problem, and go and then make the step forward and see new solutions. So that's also a fine and good way to make it. So I'm not the one who says like, always start with a problem, otherwise it's not going to work. Because in practice, we humans, we like to think in solutions. That's how we think. So okay. That said, are there some other, you know, like questions or inputs about where we are? It might be also not really related to what we're doing, but if there are some questions right now.
When we work on collaborative projects, thinking about the problem is also solving some IP issues, because everybody start with the problem, and they think about the solution altogether. And then that's also something very positive to start with.
That's a good point. So that means that if you decide on a problem that you want to solve, then that's the point where you also have to decide, how do we handle the IP situation?
Exactly.
So before we even have a solution, because as soon as the solution is here, what people do is they say, like, they claim the idea for themselves. Like, that was my idea, that was not your idea. No, but in reality, the idea was not one person's idea, but it was a collaboration, and it just happened to be in my head first because of the inputs that I received from others. So it's not my idea actually. So it's the idea of the process. The sooner you can decide on the IP situation, the better, because afterwards it's also a bit difficult. It's like, no, I have an idea, and so on. But it's a good point.
And opening the problem is a way to find partners for collaborative projects.
Yes.
Because sometimes people tell me, yes, I have an idea, but I don't want to give it. And I say,
exactly.
Okay, that's not a problem. So please give the problem, put the problem on the platform, and then we build a team, and the team will work on this problem. Yes, exactly.
It's also something that I should suggest that many companies, many companies have those mailbox for ideas. That's either like a real mailbox there, or a virtual mailbox where you can just send in ideas, and you say, like, people come in and send ideas. What is a lot better than that is to have a mailbox for problems, because then you can say, like, bring in like really like business problems, hard problems, customer problems that you have no idea how to solve, but that you see that they are here. And as soon as you have them, then you can prioritize the problems and say, I think that's a really big problem. If we can solve that, that's great. And then you can like make a shout out to like the whole company, or, open innovation, and say, we look for people or for partners who are willing to solve that problem, because that's something that we are working on. That's a lot better than to have like a collection of ideas. Because you don't have to say no to most of the times you will have to say no to ideas because they are ugly ducklings in the beginning, or you have to, the whole process is a lot harder than to say, that's a great problem, let's solve the problem together. So yeah. Good. So let's go into the third step now. What I want to do is, I made a short example. It's in German, but for everyone who's not fluent with German, I can shortly tell you what the example is. So you find it on the Miro board. If you follow the arrow, there is an example. And the example is, if you have the supporting beliefs, the one is battery production is bad for the environment. And the other one is cars, they stay around most of the times. So they are not automobiles, but auto-stables, so wow, whatever. So they stay there, they don't move around. So if those are the core beliefs, what I want you to do next is turn it into an opposite. That's the first step. Maybe like the battery is not good for the environment. The opposite is battery is good for environment, or is not bad for environment. Then you make it more radical. It's like, oh, battery production is actually even good for for the environment. Then make it more radical. What if batteries could even bind CO2? Okay, let's do it more radical. What if batteries would contain out of plants and bacteria and fungus, and they would be 100% biological deterioratable? So that's just an example. The fun thing is, if you Google that, then you see there are already like companies working on that. So that's not that radical as it might seem in the first place. So what I want you to do is take your core belief, and the good thing is, if the core belief is also a negative one, and so try to formulate it as if it was an obstacle to what you're trying to do. So if you only have core beliefs that are positive, like services is a good thing, then try to come up with rather obstacle core and supporting beliefs. Turn that into an opposite, and then try to make it more radical, more radical, more radical. Try to come up with something that you say, well, I guess that's too radical. So that's
just so we're clear, you want us to perform this process on the core belief or on the
no, on the
beliefs?
supporting
Okay.
beliefs. Exactly.
Just making sure.
So exactly. So you hopefully you picked 4, or if not, then that's the first step, to pick 4 of your core supporting beliefs, and then make that with the supporting beliefs. I just tell you what will happen afterwards. If you have the more radical version of the supporting beliefs, this gives you an image for a new core belief. So afterwards, you will formulate a new core belief, but that will result out of the more radical supporting beliefs. So just trust the process. Let's try to make that. Take your 4 core beliefs, supporting beliefs, 4 supporting beliefs, formulate them as an obstacle, and then try to make the opposite, and more radical, more radical, more radical. Good. And as always, if you have questions, just post on the red field. Good. I'll bring you back in about, 12 minutes. I give you 12 minutes for that. Breakout session. So let's start again. Jeremy, you also want to join the group? Sorry. No problem.
Should have looked at the time. No, we were just in an interesting discussion, and I got cut off halfway because I.
I see.
Very short,
That's
12 minutes.
Yeah, it is short. It's short.
And for this part, which is kind of the most, you know, interesting for the brain.
Yeah, but I ask you as a group, do you want a few more minutes? I can give you that. Like if you say as a collective, so yes, let's give like 3 more minutes or something like this, I can do that. No problem.
I think it's fine.
No, it's okay. I think we will do.
Yeah.
We'll do like that.
I mean, it's more kind of a demo, right? It's more to see how it could work. But I'm glad to hear that you had some very interesting conversations. Good. Are there some questions, key takeaways, some, you know, like some things you want to share or ask?
Yes, for us it was a little bit difficult to begin because we had questions, and
yes,
then if we have to yes, it's very easy to find the opposite. You know, you have just then the negative sentence, and then that's it. So we had to rephrase our post-it before being able to start the process.
Yes, that's what I thought when I read like your starting points. I thought like, I guess your team has to reframe that in order to make it really like opposite and radical. Mm-hmm.
I found the multi-step approach quite cool, because if you have just started with one and say, okay, how far can we go? You would not have gone as far as by going one step and then challenging each other to take an additional step. I found that very powerful.
Mm-hmm. And in the end, you're free to like say, no, that's too radical. You know, now we're really against like the physical laws. That's and then you can go 1 or 2 steps back. So that's always an option, you know, like to go back, but like push yourselves to the limits, like even more radical. What would that mean? Yeah.
Good. As we were in that you know, in that mind, it was like it is, and then no, it's not, and then it is, and then it's best, and then the best. You know, it's always the, and I think we also like kind of need to, okay, once we have the best of the best, what else can we have to have more concrete things? Because sometimes, yes. I mean, we get stuck with the yes, no, then better, and then the best. So maybe we would need to get more in deep to have other things, but very interesting.
Yeah. And what you can take also as a takeaway here is, I mean, this kind of like more. You can also apply that if you're already in the stage of having an idea, like you have an idea, and maybe you find some, you know, like some collaborator or some people that you can just say like, let's sit together and try to make that idea even better. You know, like this is what we want to do. How could we make it even better than that? Better. You know, like try to come up with even more. Like what would be like really good? Because you can always go 2 steps back and 1 step back. But we love to stick with the first thing that we think it's good.
Yeah.
That's also something that I once heard from a keynote from the guy from the Google company, Google X, the company that makes like the moonshots, you know, like the Google moonshots. He said when someone comes to him with an idea, then he says, go back to your board, come up with like 10 other ideas how you could do that, and then come back. And you know, like this kind of like more, I want to hear more before I even hear your idea, brings people to the conclusion that like maybe the idea that I had initially was not the best one, that there are other solutions to that problem. And in reality, there are always a lot of different possibilities. And this is something that is very natural for us humans, because in normal life, we just need one solution to a problem. Like if I have something that I need to solve, the first solution that I have, that's enough most of the times. But if you want to really be innovative and be radically innovative, then you have to like surpass that and say, okay, I have now one solution, but what about like the other 50 solutions that could also be there? Come up with more solutions. Yeah. Good. Now I want to go into the next phase, which is, this is more kind of, look at what you came up with the radical supporting beliefs, and then try to ask yourself, if those supporting beliefs were correct, what would a new core belief look like? So imagine that those radical beliefs could be indeed correct. What could be a new core belief? And try to come up with a new core belief, like, yeah, come up with 2, 3, 4 new core beliefs, and then take one that you think this is a really interesting one and is quite far away from the one that we had in the beginning. So I think this will take a bit of a leap of faith to do that, because that's not very, maybe not very rational or logical to do that, but like try to take that in and to come up with new core beliefs. So that's the new the next stage. Are there some questions regarding the next stage?
Yeah, would you have an example for that?
Yeah, wait a second. Well, it's difficult to make it on the spot, but yeah, let's take, like, which group would like to give me their radical supporting beliefs, just as an example.
Take ours if you want. They're up in the group 4 square.
For group 4, okay. A service that is good today will be better than any comparable service in any industry. People only buy standardized services. People accept that a service is an ongoing evolution that changes, improves over time. Automated quality control makes it trivial to provide a service in the expected quality. Yeah, what could be a core belief? I mean that's not so easy, but I think it goes into a direction where you could say, like, our customers, that they. Let's think. If you have one, then come up with one. But I think it's like, where you started is you started with the core belief. People are afraid. No, from product to service. What was your first core belief?
The core belief that we started with is quality is more manageable with a product than with a service. Good.
And now you have things like that people only buy standardized services, people accept that the service is an ongoing evolution, and so on. So it's like your customer already, made that shift, that that the quality is not, maybe it's like quality is not a fixed thing. Quality is an evolution. And our customers accept quality as an evolution, maybe, maybe something like this. But as I said, it's kind of a leap of faith, like take it in, try to come up with something. You can also, make some variations of that. Let's see where the journey will take you. And if you want, you want me to come in and brainstorm with you, then write on the I need support page. Good. I make the breakout sessions, so I'll bring you back in about, yeah, again, like 12-13 minutes. Wait. I made 2 little groups. Now I don't know if the groups are the same as before. Who was in group 1?
Florina, Leila, and Marco.
Leila and Marco. Good. Who was in group 2?
Jérémy, Joël, Samuel Lautenbach et Daniel Haring.
Perfect. Who was in group 3?
I was in group 3, Hélène. My colleague had to leave.
Hélène, and who was?
It was Stefan Haller, Luc Maffly und Fiona Zimmermann.
That's strange. I don't have them here anymore.
Oh no, they had to leave.
So you should join another group, or
I make it alone. I don't know what is better to stay with. It's equal for me.
I think doing it alone kind of defeats the purpose.
The last group was Celia, Dominic, and Nicolette.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, then.
Just join us.
Hélène, do you want to join the first team, who are only 3?
If they accept, I'm happy with that. Yeah.
Good. Good.
Hi, you're alone.
I'm alone. Yes, Celia apparently got kicked out of Zoom. She's now in, but probably not in the right room.
I see. She just was in the waiting room, so put her back in. 04.
By the way, cool glasses.
Oh, thanks.
Hey.
Welcome
Hey,
back.
you were kicked out.
I don't know. Yeah, it just stopped.
So, but you're back. I'm glad.
Yeah, it's good.
Braunmüller was never there, right?
I was in with another person while waiting. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Then go on.
Okay.
Thanks.
Go back here. Mhm.
No, he joined.
Hello.
Hello. I think that
How can I help?
we perhaps need a little bit of support.
Yes.
How to extract this these core beliefs on the basis of what we did until now. And perhaps, I don't know if our basis is good or not.
No, that's good. I see like your new core beliefs. I think, you know, like mindset is like kind of difficult, but your supporting beliefs are quite cool. It does not require a change of mindset. Okay, let's go with the first three. Like if we work with competitors, not against them, the service exists without a product, which in my mind could be like the product is something that the competition, the competitors give. So we don't have a product, but you know, the competitors have one. We work with them, not against them. And there is no need for a value for a service. So I don't know, like the service itself is a value. What could you do out of that? So I think like the one that you wrote down, our mindset is to create services supported by the competition. If you just leave out the mindset and you go into, you know, like services, I don't know, like services work best when supported by the competition. Let's say that's a new core belief. or services itself generate value without any other value. I don't know. It could be something like this. So that sounds kind of counterintuitive, but I think it's a good starting point to come up with questions and ideas later on. Yeah, serve on the competitor's product, exactly. Maybe it's even like our competitors want us to build services on their products, or expect that, or like I have the image in my mind of the huge fishes and whales that have like all the small fishes coming and then like eating from them and therefore cleaning them. So maybe that's the image, like our competitors need us as a symbiote to work, like maybe that's in this direction. I could imagine something.
And so that they become partner, they're not competitors anymore.
Yes, but maybe partner is a too generic. Maybe try to make it even stronger than a partner. Like we can only survive together, the competitors and us. Like without each other, we will both lose. Maybe it's make it stronger.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So welcome back. Quite interesting what happened. Like I see like good ones in all teams, but I do have a question for team one, because like you really took another turn than the other ones. So as I can see, like team one started with like service is more like the kind of the future, like the service driven business model is the future compared to the product model. Because of all the changes we had, it turns out to be like the kind of the opposite, right?
Right.
But I mean it's interesting as a starting point for questions and ideas, because I guess there are many companies and organizations that are product oriented and think that they need to go into a more service oriented direction. But if you have this new mindset and you say the future is product oriented and society wants to have a service free economy, well, that's a change of a core belief. It's not like we have to strive to do that what everyone else is trying to do, but hey, what if that what we're doing is like the way? And so it's kind of interesting, but it's a different turn than the other took.
Maybe just to explain, we came up with it because of the negative that we had to do. Yeah,
exactly.
That's why, of course, yeah, you end up with that at the end.
So are you happy with the core belief in the end or not?
I think it depends, because from my experience, there are sometimes, if everyone is going into one direction, you can stand out if you're going into another direction. I mean, I know in the past I worked a lot with hotels, for example, so everyone was doing everything more digital and so on. And then all of a sudden now it's coming up, all those digital detox retreats and so on. And I mean, this is directly the opposite, right? So
yeah, that's a good point.
I was also in the same group, and I would also say that, especially if we look at some evolutions with services, like I think other groups had this as well, that services keep being, or we keep paying recurrently for stuff that in another time would have been maybe just a once only payment. So maybe this would be a way to go in a direction to offer again a product where you only pay once, you use it one, or you use it and then you repair it, like almost going in that circular thing again, without having to repay every month, or without today being excessively reliant on 1,000 of subscription services to fulfill my needs.
That's a really good statement, because it's a good starting point for the next phase that I want to do. And this time I want you all to stay together, like we make it as a whole group. I wanted to collect questions that arise from that new core belief, and to stay with that first belief that you have. And what Florina said now, I could ask myself, who is kind of fed up with services? Who would like to have not you, but is there a specific kind of a target group that we could say, look for target groups that would enjoy or would love to see a more product-centered economy and less services? And that could be an entry point to come up with ideas where you could be quite radical with what you do. That could be one question. So let's look for questions. You can take the one that you have, the one or the core beliefs that you have, but you can also look to the other teams, what kind of core beliefs they came up with. Take one that you think, well, that's kind of interesting, and then try to come up with questions that arise from that. Not questions regarding what do you mean by that, but questions that could be a good starting point for ideas. And I also like the ones that the other two teams have. I think there are some really good ones. I mean, the service automatically adapts to the customer's expectations. I love that one. It has a lot of questions in it. It's like, how do we know what the customer expects? For example.
I mean, we were thinking about that one before. Do we have an example? And the one example that we came up with, or kind of category of examples, would be like YouTube or Netflix or whatever, that kind of learns on the go what you like, and then makes your experience better by providing you additional videos that you like, by providing you potentially the ads that you find interesting, and so on and so on.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Maybe there's also the question of the, the cold start question. It's like, how do we know the expectations of customers that are not yet customers? We don't have any data. How to quickly find out what the expectations are? That could be one question. There are many questions that could arise from that. And also the group number 2, you also have really interesting ones. Services create value both for the competition and the customer. Yeah, good one. So I could, for example, you could ask yourself, how can we blur the lines between customer and competition? If both are maybe it's like blurred lines. It's like, it doesn't really matter if you're competitor, customer. It's like everybody wins, you know.
In case you're talking, you're on mute.
So we can make a slow transition to the next task and the last task. So you can still write some questions if you want, but you can also go down to the last task, which is like based on the questions that arose now that you've written down. Are there some ideas or possible directions that could lead to a solution? You know, it doesn't have to be a fixed solution, but maybe some interesting thoughts. Like what kind of things could we think of? In which direction could we go? So let's collect some of them down there. we wrap it up. I think there are already a lot of very good comments and post-its on the wall. You can also use take the time to read through all the post-its that are here. Good. I would like to share one last thought before we go into the wrap up, like the checkout phase. And this last thought is one that is quite dear to my heart because it's about what is an idea. And I think many times we have a wrong like relationship to the idea. Because an idea it can be quite different, you know, it can be just a rough first, you know, hinge, something that we have in mind that has no legs, no arms, but it could be something. It can also go the whole direction into a complete concept with a business model and everything. That can also be an idea. So you have a whole range of things that can be labeled an idea. But for me, it's important that an idea, most of the times, it's not near the end of the innovation. You know, it's not like, oh, now we have it, so now it's getting concrete, but it's more like of the start, the first concrete starting point to go into the testing and feedback phase. So if you want to go into a testing and feedback phase, which I would recommend, you know, like go out and talk to people, to customers, to competitors, to whatever you need to talk to, the best way to do that is with a first idea. Because then you have something that it's a bit more concrete than just having, you know, a subject, a topic, something. But it is not something that you have to stick to. So the idea is it's like a jumping board. Maybe it's also a jumping board to make, you know, to think about what business model would you need to make something like this? And then you have the business model, and then you can ask yourself, what parts of the business model is very critical and has to be proven. You know, it's like a jumping board to a lot more things that you can research and think about, test, and so on. Most of the time, if you work with an idea like this, it will change itself completely. Like in the end, you won't recognize the initial thing that you labeled an idea because it was the starting point to get feedback, to work on it, and so on. So that's like my thing. Like if you have now here some interesting thoughts, it's not the end, it's the beginning. It's the starting point to finding new things, to gather information, to know where to look, and so on. So don't take an idea as that's almost the end and now we just have to make it. It's kind of more the beginning to come up with concrete questions, concrete experiments, and so on. So that's like my last input here. Now I would like to hear from you. You can either write down on this the last part here where it's written short sharing on how you find the session, what is your key takeaway. You can write down some notes, but you can also just share what you think of it. Are there some open questions still? Yeah, how was it for you?
I still have a question linked to this kind of to these exercises.
Yeah.
Which we've been trying to do that internally in the company as well, and every time we feel like it takes more time than we expect for everyone to participate and to and so the question is more about when do we cut off? When do we stop? Because, for example, building a roadmap can take several meetings, such meetings, or so what is the good balance between spending the time to let everyone collaborate and try to find the common ground, and at the same time not spending all our time doing this?
That's a very good question. It's a fine balance, right, in between like too less than too much. And I think what's also important is how many people are involved. You know, like don't try to come up with a consensus where everybody has to say yes to, because that kills radical innovation completely. You know, like something that is radical, you won't get everyone to say yes. So maybe it's better to have a smaller group that has like or maybe even one person who has to decide, let's go that way. Even if I'm not sure if that's the right way, let's go that way. But this one person or this small group always gets to get some feedback from others. You know, like let's come together, let's take a short time. I want to hear what you think. I want to share what we think, but then I decide, or we decide as a small team what we're going to do. So that's how I would do it. You know, like don't try to find a yes from everyone. Decide in the beginning who is going to decide, but then take like short times where you get all the feedbacks, all the information, and then just go with one way. You know, like Jeff Bezos once wrote or said that there are two kinds of decisions. There are the one decisions that if you see that they are wrong, it's easy to go back. And those kind of decisions don't take too much time to decide. Just decide, go that way, and if it's wrong, go back. And then the other kind of decisions that if you do the decisions, they're kind of costly. You know, they cost a lot. They have a lot of implications. If you have those kind of decisions, then take more time. But most of the times, the decisions are the first category. It's like it costs more to spend too much time deciding than to just decide and then go back if it was wrong.
So whoever messed up the board, maybe press once Control Z to undo.
oh, yeah, I see.
That is radical.
It looks quite good. It's an artwork.
Well, that's definitely a Miro painting. It has a lot of lines.
Yeah. That looks good. Yeah, maybe, I don't know if the person knows who it was.
Otherwise, just press Control Z once.
Yeah.
It should undo whatever you did last on the board.
Yeah, otherwise, we're at the end anyway.
I think it was Nike Casanova, because at 1638 you did a lot of changes, a lot.
Try to go in, but I'm not in right now, so that's why. And I'm trying to come in because I was not connected before, and I'm trying to. I'm in now. I'm in. If I was, Control Z doesn't work.
Anyway, it's strange because I tried to pin everything and to lock it, but yeah. Anyhow, it's a pity for everyone who would have liked to make a picture of it, or in the end you could have sent it, but yeah, it was an exercise.
Yeah, Jean Philippe, maybe you can sell your services to Miro for radical innovation.
Yeah, exactly.
But, do you have a copy of the original board so that we can try to reuse it for other purpose?
Unfortunately not. I don't know if I can do something about it as the owner.
I think as an owner, you can go back to an older version or something usually.
Yeah, maybe. Board history.
If you recorded it, maybe also.
Yeah, within board history, you have on top left, you have activity, which you are, I think, and then you have versions. And then maybe you can select the version of today at 17,
and then restore. Yes, it worked. So we don't have the post-its of the last two tasks, but you still have like the overall thing. So I will make a PDF out of it, and then I can share it with you, Joël. You can distribute that. I mean, you're free how you will do that. That was just one way of doing it. There are many ways. Yeah, but how was it for you? Did you take something out of it?
For me, it's do not touch anything if you don't understand.
That's the wrong input. Touch things, break things. It's okay, you know. That was one example for you can go back, so it's no problem.
I think for me that I'm quite often moderating workshops in similar or settings, and for me the approach of not starting with a problem or not starting with need, but kind of starting with your core beliefs is a completely different starting point. And I was actually really surprised by how much we got out of that approach, even though we always just picked one, and then followed that trail down it. I think there was a lot of interesting thoughts coming out of that at the end, and I found that quite cool.
Thank you.
I can actually support what you're saying. We started our first rewriting of the roadmap with discussing our core beliefs, and it was extremely interesting to see what the team, what kind of mental models we all had, and they were very different.
Yeah. This is also the interesting thing, right? To see that even if you're in the same organization and so on, you have different mental models, and they shape what is possible or not, and in which direction you go.
Yeah, for me, I also agree. I found it super interesting to start with the core beliefs. And I consider myself as a very open person to innovation. I'm kind of into this field too, but and I appreciate that you say this little sentence was like, just trust the process. And for me, what is always interesting is to see how quickly I get emotional about one of my exercise or one of the post-it or one of the agreement we got. And for the last exercise, let's say when we had to reframe the core belief, I could notice, I was like, no, I don't want to. I'm sure we already found what we had to find, you know. And I like to be like shaken this way, say, I got, I right through radical innovation, we have to go. But that's good. I said, just trust the process. But it's interesting for me to see how, and I think that's happened a lot when you do like either brainstorming or you work in this kind of field, that people get stuck to, as you say, like this paradox that you mentioned, like love the solution or fall in love with the problem, the solution even more. And that happens super fast, extremely fast in a few minutes. Like, oh, I don't want to. So yeah, it's always good to be remembered. And I like this starting point was really interesting for me though. Thank you. And thank you for the moderation. It's not always easy to spend few hours with people that you can't always see. So I appreciate that.
It's so much easier if you have all the people in one room, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, like the thing about the core beliefs, you know, like, you can have a really great idea, and that idea might work in one organization and it might fail completely in the other. And one of the most important reasons is a different core belief. If it doesn't fit to the core belief, then it might be a really good idea, but it won't work. So sometimes it's only to write down what we think are core beliefs can already help, because then you see, because of that, this is so difficult, you know. So maybe it's not even the starting point of a workshop, but just, you know, have them written down, because you can always go back to them and see, you know, like, does it fit to us, or do we have to change that? Or good, perfect.
Great. So, Jean Philippe, really thank you very much for this afternoon. I think it was very interesting for everybody. Yes, I always enjoy listening to you. And yes, perhaps we can do something else in the coming months or years. I'm sure that this subject, yes, we should have had really more people today. I would appreciate if those who are still here could fill in the survey. I put the link in the chat. That's something very important for us to know how to improve that. If you have ideas, please feel free to give them. And I wish you a nice evening.
Thank you.
Likewise, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And sorry for my presence, which was not so constant, but I really appreciate it. And it was really fun to...
I mean, you managed to do it in a train with 2 access. I mean, hey.
I'd like to say, I think Nicolita was in 2 trains and then in the office.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't do that.
That's my life, about multitasking. And that's the reason why I'm not able to manage everything, but I really appreciate it. And I told Joel also before, it's really amazing what you brought to us. The tool and the process is really, really useful for those who will be able to bring that in their office afterwards. And I will do for sure, because it's really a good process to be creative. So thank you, Jean Philippe.
Thank you too. Thank you very much.
Okay, so bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye, everyone. Take care. Good evening.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Good. So thank you very much again.
Yeah, you too.
Can stop the registration.
Yes, that's true. Stop it.